Welcome to our workshop on writing evangelistic talks. We're so glad that you're with us today. If you haven't done them yet, then please would you have a listen to Andrew Dalton's sample evangelistic talk called What Are We Hoping For at Christmas? You could alternatively read the script that we've posted as a blog in the comments of this video. So pause the video if you haven't done that yet, watch it and then come back. Great, welcome back. Please grab a pencil and a piece of paper because we're going to do some brainstorming throughout this workshop today. So firstly, I think this is a harder task for women. Maybe this is the first time ever that you've given an evangelistic talk, or maybe that you give a talk once a year or once every 2 years, but you don't do it very often. Maybe you're standing in last minute for a friend who's got caring responsibilities or is sick herself. There's layer upon layer of pressure. Then to add to it, we think that in the events run by women in PFE, about 80% of our guests are not Christians. So this is an amazing opportunity, but also can feel like a huge amount of pressure. So we would love you to pause the video and pray. Pray that the Spirit would help you as you write your talk and that you enjoy this and you are courageous as you do it. Maybe you could text a few friends as well and ask them to pray for you too as you go about doing this. So welcome back. I wonder if you've ever been to a evangelistic event and you've taken a friend and you're not quite sure if there's a talk or not. It's pretty awkward, isn't it? Both for the speaker and for the guests themselves. And so to help with this, we recommend that you get in touch with the organizer of the event and just ask to see what the publicity looks like. What are the guests coming expecting? I found that more often than not, my friends, when they come to an event at Christmas time run by the church, they expect to hear something of the Christian message about Christmas. So be confident and courageous as you do this, but definitely get in touch with the organizer. Okay, I wonder if you've ever done this. I certainly have. We find that so many Christians are confident in starting with a Bible passage and using it to tell the story of Jesus. And yet, when it comes to a topical talk, we seem to be able to start off really well, engaging with our friends. And then there's this awkward gear crunch from first to third or first to fifth, as you do in the car, where the talk kind of changes gear and it doesn't ever quite feel as comfortable and natural as it does in the start. We want to help you through this workshop to write a talk that's got a real flow and a sequence through it so that it starts with where your friends are at, with the topic and the themes that they can't stop talking about at Christmas time and move all the way through to a big idea. This is a sequence that we found written in a brilliant book called Evangelism in a Skeptical World by a great guy called Sam Cham. And we're going to use that and follow that throughout this. So he starts with the topic, the themes, the things that your culture can't stop talking about. Then we look underneath the surface a bit at some of the issues that the topic raises, some of the questions that come out around the issues. Then it's through to the bulk, the body of the talk where you argue for a point. And throughout all of this, there's a big idea. So one coherent, unifying principle that goes all the way through so that at any point you might be able to see it and bring it back to that big idea. So let's get going with that today. So firstly, let's start with your topic. As you think about a topic, firstly think about who will be coming to the event. So pause the video now and just brainstorm who's coming along to your event. Great, welcome back. Secondly, I want you to have a think about what are the themes that our culture, your friends, can't stop talking about at Christmas time. So pause the video again and do some brainstorming, and then we'll come back together again. Okay, I thought I'd give this a go myself. So well, I've spoken at various events, men and women at a church barbecue last summer, work friends, kids at a Christmas evangelistic event, young people at the youth group, elderly people at a care home, local mums. But who is it that you are speaking to at this event? Make sure it's really clear and that you've written that down. Secondly, what are some of the themes that my friends were talking about last Christmas? Well, who's coming home for Christmas. One of my friends was really excited that all her 5 kids were coming back. Others were talking about the perfect Christmas. How can I make this Christmas perfect for everybody around me? What are the lights that I can go and see? What are the food that I can include? For some, it's nostalgia, remembering a Christmas gone by and how wonderful it was as a child, or the magic of Christmas and the presents and the parties. There's lots of themes that you could choose. So I want you just to pause the video now and decide which theme you're going to choose and follow through for this workshop. Okay, welcome back. So once you've got your topic and your theme, let's work at defining the issues underneath. So here are some really helpful questions to help you define the issue. What's the emotional connection someone might have with the topic? What problems does it create? What's culturally relevant about the topic? And where does the topic meet the felt needs of real people, especially in your audience? So please take a good few minutes now, pause the video and have a go at looking at some of the issues that your topic raises. Okay, welcome back. So I've taken Andrea's script and I've worked through some of those questions so that you can just see how this works out. So what's the emotional, existential connection someone might have to this topic? Well, listening to her talk, I realised that the connection isn't actually Christmas itself. It's about our longing for home. And Christmas just simply amplifies that, doesn't it? So the talk identifies a number of universal human experiences, stuff that happens to all of us. Looking forward to being with family, nostalgia for childhood, grief over absent loved ones. Underneath all of these is a deeper question. Is there anywhere I can truly belong and be accepted? And that's why the Maya Angelou quote is so powerful. She says, the ache for home lives in all of us. So Andrea's talk suggests that almost everyone recognizes this ache. Okay, so what problems does her topic create? So remember the topic is what are you looking forward to at Christmas? Well, I think there are several layers of problems from surface level to deeper emotional and to existential ones. So we see Christmas as stressful, things go wrong, loved ones die, maybe deeper emotional problems, we feel disappointed, our expectations are never fully met, even good homes are imperfect. And then the existential problem. So the talk gradually reveals that our problem isn't simply about Christmas. It's that nothing in this world completely satisfies our longing for home. And that's why then she introduces C.S. Lewis into the talk. She moves from Christmas disappoints us to perhaps every earthly home disappoints us because we were made for something more. We were made for another. And that's the real diagnosis. So next, what about what's culturally relevant about this topic? Well, you'll see there's Christmas expectations, there's family complexity, there's homesickness and search for belonging. Just a few of those that stand out to me. Our culture tells us that Christmas should be magical, that we should create perfect memories, that modern families are complicated. Most of us know that Christmas can magnify some of the realities in our life. That for some, there's a real homesickness. For students that have left or for immigrants that are no longer in their home, maybe there's a search for belonging, for a safe space, for authenticity. So you see here how culturally relevant this topic is to us today. And finally, where does the topic meet the felt needs of real people? You can hear throughout the talk how this would be useful for people that are saying things like, I want to be welcomed, I'm ashamed, I've messed up, I don't deserve to come back, I want to be somewhere safe. Okay, so there's so much in this topic that's really helpful. I hope that as you've asked your questions of your topic, you will come up with similar issues and you'll be able to really see the issues beneath the topic. Okay, so once you've got your topic and your issue, then you need to argue for a point. And this is the main body of the talk. So these are helpful to help us work out if we've argued a point that is helpful or not. So firstly, the point answers the questions raised by the issue that we found earlier on. Secondly, the point has an obvious opposite. Next, it can be supported by appeals to evidence and stories. So once you've argued your point, maybe just go back and say, does it answer the questions raised by the issue? Or have I got a couple of talks going on here? Is there an obvious opposite? And what are the stories that I can tell or the evidence I can give to back this all up? As we heard earlier, throughout the talk, from the start to the end, we need one big idea, one coherent, unifying principle. A bit like when you eat a stick of rock, and in the middle, throughout, there's the same thing over and over again. We want all of our applications, our illustrations to be linked back to this one big idea. And I think as I reflect on Andrea's talk, I wonder if a big idea would be something a bit like this. Christmas awakens our longing for home, but only Jesus can bring us home. Maybe pause the video here and think through what is the big idea of your talk. If you had 10 seconds in a lift to share with somebody the big idea of your talk, what would it be? Pause the video now and have a think through that. Okay, we're going to take a bird's eye view of your talk. So 1/6 of it should be an introduction, 3/6 a body, less than 1/6 for a bridge, and 1/6 for conclusion. We want this to be useful and helpful. You don't need to stick to it rigidly, but we want to give you a structure that could be helpful for you. So let me just talk through what some of those things could look like. So in the introduction, you could tell a self-deprecating story, a funny story about yourself, which gets the audience's attention. It sets up the topic, it raises the issue, it promises an answer but doesn't give the whole answer, and it gives an outline of the structure of the talk. So it could be a funny story about yourself or a funny story about something else. So that would be your introduction. The body then, bit by bit, you reveal your points. I'll come back to that in a little while. The bridge, this is a place where you sum up everything that you've said so far and about the topic, the issue, and the point. And it sums up completely everything that you've said so far. Then the conclusion, this is where you apply the point with a story that either illustrates or is an example of the point that you have made so far. Okay, so our introduction, body, bridge, and conclusion. So within those sections, you want to have a logical sequence of ideas in the body of the talk. You want to start with resonance. This is where you are connecting with your audience, where the audience are listening to you and they're saying, she has understood me, she gets my problems, she understands the situation. Then you want to move on to the dissonance section. This is where actually people begin to see that what they have believed in, what they have trusted in, does let them down, and that they can't fully put their trust in that thing. So, for example, in Andrea's talk with the resonance, we'd be looking at how she identifies with Christmas as a wonderful place, great memories and nostalgia from time with her granny, craft projects. But the dissonance would be how she discovered one year that her granny had cancer just before Christmas and everything had to be dropped and Christmas just wasn't what they'd hoped it would be that year. Once you've worked through resonance and dissonance, you can come to fulfillment. This is where Jesus fulfills all those aches and longings and desires, all those times when we face dissonance, when we see that the things we trusted in and hoped in don't fulfill us. It's a wonderful part of the talk for us to do. So what I'd love you to do now is to take Andrea's script, you'll find it in the details section, and just see if you can work out where she's talked about resonance, where she's connected with her audience, where they've said, she totally gets me. Then I want you to look at where she's talking about dissonance. Where do some of those things begin to fall down all around you? And then finally, which bit is all about the fulfillment? Where does Jesus fulfill some of those longings and aches and desires? So pause the video and just have a look at her script for a sec. Okay, so within those three sections, so resonance, dissonance, fulfillment, we want you to do three more things. So we want you to state the idea, illustrate it, and explain it. Now, maybe you've got a 7 minute talk, maybe you've got a 20-minute talk. Of course, you're going to be able to do more or less according to your time frame. And so we want this to be a helpful structure rather than a rigid thing to keep you to. But within each of those sections, have a look back at Andrea's talk. Where does she state the idea? How does she illustrate it? How does she explain it within the resonance, within the dissonance, and within the fulfillment? So just pause the video one last time and have a look at her script and see if you can work those things out. Great. Well, welcome back. Thank you so much for taking the time to go through this workshop. We are so looking forward to seeing you, meeting you either online or in person, and hearing your evangelistic talks. We're really looking forward to you then receiving feedback and going back to your context and delivering them to your friends. We're praying for you that many may come to hear about Jesus through you. And we're praying, acknowledging that it is nerve-wracking for women like us to do these kind of things, but we want to do it together, courageously and full of joy, even though we're afraid. So thanks so much for listening, and keep in touch. If you want to ask any questions, please pop them in the comment section on YouTube. Thanks a lot.